Good evening, Wakefield, and welcome to the June 28th, 2021 Town Council meeting. I hereby call this meeting to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And as you can see, many of us are back in the studio. We're very happy to be here, back with CAT, and we do have some colleagues on the phone and on Zoom as well. So we are truly hybrid today. Taking attendance, I see Councillor Danahy, Councillor Chines, Councillor Butt, Councillor Santos, and Councillor Dombrowski. Councillor May will not be with us this evening. Do we have any public engagement, Sherry?
No, Julie, no one that I'm aware of.
Okay, and I don't even see any public in-house, so we will move on to item number 5, which is approval of the minutes from the June 14th, 2021 meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, item number 6 is the PACE program, which is the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program. My understanding is we have Wendy O'Malley from Mass Development. Welcome, Wendy. We should have your slides. Yes, we do have your slides. So welcome to the Wakefield Town Council. We're very interested to hear about this.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate your time tonight. I'll wait for the presentation, or I can share it on my end, either. Would you like me to share it directly?
They should be switching that right now.
They should be switching it.
Great.
We're seeing different things in the studio, I think, than you're seeing, so.
I see it now. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Great. If we could just advance to the next slide, I'll give you a quick overview of the PACE program, and then I'm happy to take any questions at the end. So hopefully you're familiar with Mass Development. Mass Development is the state's agency that facilitates economic development throughout the Commonwealth through a variety of lending and real estate programs. I won't go through the stats, but you can see that we generated a number of jobs last year, as well as financed or managed a number of projects throughout Massachusetts. Next slide, please. So I'm just here to talk about property assessed clean energy financing, otherwise known as PACE financing. And this is a commercial property owner program. This is not for residential properties, so I want to emphasize this. But it's a unique financing program that allows property owners to finance energy investments and repay them through a betterment assessment that they're voluntarily agreeing to on their property tax bill. There are a number of benefits to the program that you can see here. And this is a program that we are not intending to use any public funds for or issue any bonds. This is all going to be third-party financing where the property owner chooses the lender that they want to work with for the project. Next slide, please. So just in terms of the flow of funds and the repayment of the betterment, here this just shows you how the property owner remits payment for the betterment assessment for the PACE financing. And then we're asking, in this case, if the project was located in Wakefield, for the municipality to disperse just the PACE assessment to the Mass Development paying agent if it's received. And then we would then disperse it to the third-party capital provider who financed the project. Next slide, please. So we're one of a number of states that have programs that are either launching or have been active. As you can see, there are a number of states that have already successfully had quite a few projects for just over $2 billion financed as of the beginning of 2021 for just over 2,500 projects. And what you can see is the sectors and the opportunity of the buildings that it can affect. And here in the Northeast, we have a large concentration of those buildings. Next slide, please. So just locally, Connecticut and Rhode Island both have had successful programs and have already implemented a number of PACE projects. So Massachusetts is following on the heels of their successes. Connecticut has had a program for 10 years and Rhode Island is now going on, I believe, 4 years. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that Mass Development is the program administrator for the PACE program. This was launched in August of 2020, so we're just going on a year of operation, and we're just starting to close on our first project applications. We work with the Department of Energy Resources, otherwise known as the DOER, who reviews the project for the technical adherence to the guidelines. And we also have a request for provider, capital providers available on our website, along with all the guidelines and information and details at that link you see. Next slide, please. So this is a program that is only for existing buildings right now under the statute of eligibility. It is not for new construction, but it is for commercial and industrial properties that are eligible. And it also has a residential eligibility component for 5 units or more multifamily. If it was 4 units or less, that would need to be enabled under a different statute for residential PACE. So I want to emphasize this is commercial PACE. Next slide, please. And this is for energy improvements that we classify into 2 groupings: energy efficiency and renewable energy measures. And some of the nice benefits of this include that you can finance the items that are necessary to install those improvements, which normally aren't financeable through the alternative financing options. So for instance, solar panels often need a new roof if they're to be installed, and the roof is the high cost item that is usually difficult to fund or finance. Here in PACE, as long as you can find savings to pay for the roof cost over the term of the investment, it is eligible for financing. Next slide, please. So I just have 3 really general examples that would show you the opportunity that potentially could occur in Wakefield, in a municipality like yours, where there either is a commercial office building that needs HVAC upgrades. Next slide, please. Or in this case, this is a multifamily housing example where they did some upgrades with the lighting, the heating and cooling, and they were able to use PACE financing to offset that. Next slide, please. And this is an example of where a distributor used it to refinance or fund an energy improvement project that involved solar panels that were funded outside of PACE, and then they used PACE to then finance it. This is especially relevant during the current pandemic, where in previous times, owners maybe were in a better situation to fund projects like this without financing, and now they would like to access those funds for other more priority items now that they may be in a different situation. Next slide, please. So just very quickly, some of the key rules of PACE include the reason that we're here tonight. Each municipality has to opt in one time by a vote of a resolution of the City Council or Board of Selectmen to allow property owners to participate in PACE. That's through the vote of resolution that Mass Development has drafted. And we have 44 municipalities that have already opted in Massachusetts right now. There is a 20-year maximum financing term allowed, or the longest useful life of the measures that are in the project. That's a really big benefit for property owners who want to access this financing, as it allows almost double what they usually would be offered under direct loans. It also has to be a positive cash flow, a project under the rules for approval. So energy cost savings must pay for the improvements over the term of the financing selected. It can be 100% financing where fees can be included. Next slide, please. And in order for a PACE project to be approved, there are a number of requirements, including that if you do have a mortgage on the property, the mortgage holder must consent to the PACE financing before Mass Development will allow the project to proceed. Also, the fact that the assessment is secured by a lien that we ask the municipality to place on the property. That PACE lien is senior to the mortgage holder lien if consent is granted, but it is not senior to any municipal lien. The municipal liens always remain senior and first in position. I want to emphasize that we never come ahead of the municipality. It's only the private mortgage holder with consent that we would come ahead of in a default situation. And this is a non-accelerating assessment, meaning in the event of a default or if the property owner doesn't pay, it's only the PACE assessment that was billed and uncollected that moves to get enforced during a default. There is no limit or maximum financing cost to the program, but there is a minimum target of $250,000 or higher in terms of the project cost that would be financed. So this would not apply to every commercial and industrial property. These really are projects that would come one at a time, an application process that the property owner has to go through with mass development, where we'd be communicating with the municipality about the status of that and if it's moving forward. So it's not intended to overwhelm the town employees or the staff. We would be working with them and setting up the process so it doesn't cause them any additional effort. And one last benefit is that if the property is sold during the PACE financing term, the PACE assessment travels to the new owner, who is using the savings on an ongoing basis to pay for the investment. So that's where it makes sense in terms of the PACE structure. Next slide, please. I said there are 44 that have opted in. So this slide, we have one more that just opted in recently, the town of Easton, that isn't listed here. So you can see here some of the larger municipalities: Boston, Springfield, Gloucester in the north, Salem and Beverly were some of the most recent add-ons, as well as Norwood. So Wakefield would be in good company if they were deciding to opt in and vote. Many of these municipalities have either climate energy plans or goals that align, and PACE aligns with those, or they have property owners who have asked and desired to use PACE for a potential project in the future. So I know this is a little bit of a kind of scattered list, but that's where most of the interest has been generated out of, and that's why you see some of these municipalities here, along with the fact that many municipalities do see this as a very big opportunity for their existing building stock to reduce the energy usage and the footprint, the carbon footprint that they would be using in the future through using PACE financing. And next slide, please. So very last, I know this is a busy slide, but this is intended to represent the PACE structure and what would be undertaken by the parties involved in a closing. And specifically, Mass Development is in the middle as the program administrator. We draft the documents. We have form documents that all the lenders have to use in terms of the project. We work with the municipality on setup. We've engaged 2 consultants to help us with the setups on the betterment, so that there isn't any extra effort. And so I will stop there in terms of the presentation and information, and I will take any questions at this time if it's appropriate.
Sure. And maybe before we do that, Victor, I should have included you in the in the introduction. Do you want to share your? I know you've been instrumental in bringing this forward. Do you want to share your thoughts?
Oh, my thoughts are pretty simple. It gives the town of Wakefield another tool in the toolbox to help commercial property owners become more energy efficient. And it does not present any issues as it relates to my office because it works like a betterment. We do plenty of betterments every year, so we're fully behind it.
Great. Any questions from the council?
I don't see a downside, so I'm wondering if I'm missing, if there is a negative in us doing this. It sounds great. It sounds like, why wouldn't we do it? So maybe Victor or Wendy, I'm just not sure what would be the hesitation for some municipalities to join.
There really hasn't been much, except that possibly their tax system isn't able to accommodate a betterment because it's not current.
Okay.
That's really, it has to do with that.
Great. Thank you.
Ed, you have your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for this presentation, Ms. O'Malley. This is very helpful, and Victor, for all your efforts to get us here. I wanted to just follow up on the piece about default, so as having read your slides beforehand, and as I understand your presentation, we're really just a pass-through in essence. The town is really a pass-through, correct? If we receive the money, we remit whatever would be owed to Mass Development, and Mass Development takes care of the private party lender in that case. But there's not a scenario where if there's a default, the town in any way would become financially liable, correct?
Correct. There is no scenario where you would ever be financially liable for paying a PACE assessment on behalf of a property owner. That just is not how it's set up.
And then Mass Development would pursue any kind of collection efforts, if you want to simplify it, through whatever means with that property owner directly then? We're out of the mix.
You're out of the mix. Actually, the capital provider who finances the project holds the lien for the duration of the financing, so they would pursue the enforcement under a default. We would assist them in terms of engaging the betterment assessment consultant, who would assist them with pursuing the defaulted amount on the assessment, but Mass Development doesn't pursue it on behalf of the property owner.
And then what would be the incentive for the current mortgage holder to allow this kind of a project to jump ahead of them in the hierarchy, just like out of curiosity?
Sure. So for allowing that one billing cycle to come ahead of them, it's the improvement of the building. So often if you're looking at the improvements being made, it's a boiler, it's a chiller, it's roof, things that are really essential to the value of the building and make it more attractive for sale. So I think when they look at the proposed projects and the improvement that the building would realize versus the risk of one assessment payment coming ahead of them. And then if you think about a scenario where actually they're being defaulted on, they would pay the PACE assessment to regain control of how the default proceedings go forward. So PACE is just another debt that would be taken care of or paid whenever that property is sold or however it's resolved.
But ultimately, they see it as a value add to the property as a part of their portfolio. So worst case, there's a default, they have an asset that is worth more than otherwise would be.
Correct, with new improvements and
Right.
more resale value.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for explaining and thank you, Victor, for spearheading this. I think it sounds great.
Thank you.
Jonathan?
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. This is really, really helpful. Just as an anecdote, the only time that I had heard about the PACE program previously was when John Oliver covered it on his show last week. So it was much more educational to get this view of the commercial side. Just a couple of questions, if you could elaborate a little bit. One is around the requirement that the projected energy cost savings exceed the cost of the improvements. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how that's determined, and is there an audit that's done as part of that process to evaluate sort of the savings that the improvements would generate over time?
So there's an application process where there's a set of technical data that the property owner and their energy project developer must submit to the DOER. And included in that are M&V and commissioning post-construction that the property owner has to submit in the DOER reviews in terms of how that would be done. So there is a full technical review before any approval is done. And if you look at the guidelines, I will say we have received the comments. They are quite detailed and make it very that a property owner does need to submit a large amount of information in order to be approved. But that is our intent, because we want good projects to be approved that meet that savings to investment ratio rule that's in the statute of being greater than 1.
Great. And the second question, following up on Councillor Dombrowski's question, do you have any data on sort of the default percentage based on any of the loans that have been granted to date in other communities that have approved this?
I don't have any formal data, but I can tell you anecdotally that if you if you hear from lenders who have financed projects, they will often tout that the default rate in commercial PACE is pretty much nil, because of the structure of the non-accelerating assessment, because of all the rules involving approval. It is a different world in commercial versus residential, just like in mortgages. You have a different knowledge base and you have different structures governing the PACE approvals.
And I would certainly imagine the size of the projects you're talking about, if you've got a minimum in the 250,000 range, I mean, there's a lot of due diligence that any property owner would do before taking this on.
Absolutely, and I can tell you that anyone financing these type of projects is doing a really due diligence in terms of the underwriting the project and looking at all the aspects, just like in a standard financing.
Great, great. Well, listen, thank you very much. Really appreciate it, and glad to learn more about it today.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and for placing me higher up on the agenda.
I have a quick question. Is there a residential PACE program?
There is not. That would need to be enabled by a totally separate statute by the legislature.
Okay, but there is one that exists nationally, just Massachusetts has not adopted it?
It's not in Massachusetts. I believe residential PACE may only be in 1 or 2 other states. It is
Okay.
not nearly as popular as commercial PACE for the reasons that
Yeah, you just
may have heard
elaborated.
of. Yes. Yes.
Okay, that was just a curiosity question. I guess the only thing that I would add to is, since we have a municipal light department, and we would just want to make sure that we bring them into the information and awareness on this, because this is something that they can promote as well.
I believe we may have already discussed that with them. I can tell you that it aligns with municipal lights in terms of it complements any energy efficiency efforts that they may have or plans they're trying to implement. And there often isn't funding for those types of projects. So that's really where they see PACE coming in and filling, I think, a void or a need that they cannot fill.
Yeah, I definitely see that. And in Wakefield, we have some gas curtailment or constraints, and so this would really help commercial buildings be more energy efficient without gas, so it's great. Okay, I think we need to take a vote to adopt this. So do I have a motion to adopt the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program?
So moved. Second.
Any additional discussion? Oh, Victor, did you have your hand up? Go ahead.
One quick thing, for bringing this to the table, it really goes to our economic development director, Erin Kokinda. I'm along for the ride on this one. She's done a wonderful job at organizing and bringing this to the town in a way that, hopefully will pass. We'll be able to put it to some good use.
Absolutely. Thank you, Erin, for that. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And nobody, so 6 in favor. Thank you very much, Wendy and others from Mass Development, for
Thank you.
being here.
Thank
And thank
you.
you, Victor and Erin.
Thank you to the council and thank you to the staff. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Good night.
You as well.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 7, our favorite topic. Bill, do we have any updates on the Broadway Railroad crossing?
We do. So if you recall, I had a quick presentation for you folks on the 14th, your last meeting, where I told you we'd be planning to a Zoom meeting with FRA on Monday, which we actually were able to have. That meeting went fairly well. Followed back up with the reviewer on Tuesday to answer some additional questions from her, and made an informal submittal on Wednesday of last week. I have not heard back since that Wednesday submittal, unfortunately, so at this point I'm still in a holding pattern waiting on that. Probably the other piece to note, and we talked a little bit about the public authority application and then that 60-day appeal period. Once I make that formal resubmittal, there will be a 60-day appeal period, so that was clarified for me as well from the meetings last week. So unfortunately, I think we're in a better spot than we were a couple weeks ago. I believe we actually have a consensus with the reviewer. I'm just waiting on her to agree with what's in writing and put that back in her plate. So hopefully I get the thumbs up by tomorrow and I can get that submittal in ASAP. So that's where we're at.
Okay, we'll continue to hold a place for you on the agenda. Steve?
I just want to say, Bill did yeoman's work to get a meeting with the person behind the curtain who I did learn handles every quiet zone in the country. One person.
Yeah.
One person.
One person. And she said that she was going to get to this. She said, I want to help you guys out. It was a very good meeting. So as much as we were a little cranky beforehand, Bill and I, we didn't let it blow over. But so it was something that we didn't think would happen, but it did. So kudos to Bill, and hopefully we'll get this done.
Okay, well, we'll keep the pressure on. Thank you so much for,
Quick question.
yes, I see Ed, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to set expectations for everyone, obviously, who is concerned about this issue, it sounds like from a timeline perspective, at a minimum, we're looking at that 60-day comment period in addition to whatever additional time. I know you said the work itself is not a very long timeline, right? The actual work that would need to be done. But so people recognize we're talking 60 days plus the amount of time. So we're probably talking out a few more months, it sounds like. Is that right?
Well, I think Well, I try to keep it to the 60 days. So I think Council Chines had asked last meeting about, if we could do the work during that 60-day appeal period. Obviously, that's on our own risk, but I think with the pressure that we've received and the public definitely speaking up on this, that we would move forward and do that. Basically have it ready to go for that 60-day appeal period to end and go forward. So
Right.
what from FRA is that they would have the approval letter ready to go. They're in agreement with it, provided there are no comments that are received. Again, last time we heard no comments at all. We tried contacting everybody, nobody would call us back. So I'm pretty confident that we're not going to get comments. So 60-day appeal period will be as soon as we get that official informal application in. That's the clock starts. So my goal is to have it tomorrow ready to go. I mean, I'm ready to go. I just need the thumbs up from them.
So best case scenario would be, say, 60, low 60s in terms of number of days. 62, 65 days would be the best case scenario people would be looking at because of the comment period, which we have no control over because that's federally mandated.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
We'd love to say, I'll put a date out there. We'd love to say by the time school opens up
Yeah.
again,
Yes.
Labor Day, that's all taken care of.
I just think it's
That's
really
our hope.
important
Yeah.
I think it's just really important for everyone to understand that the 60-day period we have no control over as a community. Literally, that's something that is dictated by the federal government, and so that is going to drive us a bit, our timeline. But there's nothing that we can physically do about that aspect of it. It sounds like, and I know, Bill, you've been doing everything in your power to advance things as quickly as possible to at least get us to this point. So thank you for your efforts.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Just one
Jonathan-
quick
yeah,
question,
Jonathan.
just to confirm, the 60-day comment period starts when we submit the plan, or is there any, time period for them to accept it before that comment period would start?
Well, we send it certified mail, so what I would be doing is forwarding that along via email as well, so they know it's on the way.
Okay.
Whatever I can do is speed. So yeah, I'm as soon as I get the green card back that says that they've received the certified mail, I make sure that they have that in hand so they know that the appeal period should be starting right now.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, and thank you very much for all your work on this. I think we'll all probably be there with a bottle of champagne to christen the crossing when it reopens at Broadway. And would echo Mr. Mayo's comment that if we could get that opened up before school starts, that would be even better.
That's our goal.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, moving on to item 8, the appointments to the Youth Council. We had a lot of interest in the Youth Council. Are you the liaison? Do you want to present it?
Sure, I'm happy to. Although I will say I have yet to actually be at a youth council meeting as liaison, since their first one is on Wednesday. But no, there was a lot of interest, a lot of great great students who expressed some interest. I see that Jack is on as well, the outgoing chair of the Youth Council. Jack and the other graduating seniors actually spent a whole lot of time going through the applications, and I believe Jack interviewing each of the individuals who applied, and so they went through a thorough process and made some recommendations there. I don't know if I could, through you,
Please.
ask Jack to maybe speak a little bit about that?
Definitely, yeah. So we had a lot of interest. We had over 20 applicants, which is really, really exciting. I'm glad to see an uptick in youth engagement in the town since last year. And we interviewed all applicants, and we're really excited about people we have recommended to be voting members. And we're excited as well for our non-voting members to continue their work in the community. And it's really exciting. We are just really pondering next year and our initiative that we're working on for the upcoming term. So.
And one question, just Jack, for you, just to clarify sort of the intention, is I know there was the recommendation that you made, which we can go through when we do the motion for the voting members to be appointed. Are you guys recommending that the other individuals be appointed as non-voting members, or is that a different process that you see playing out?
So what I have heard from the town council is that we on our own can appoint non-voting members as people who will come to our meetings, but if that's not correct, we can totally do a new recommendation. But what we have heard is that we all people who were not selected to be voting members, we will recommend to be appointed as non-voting members. through ourselves in our process. I think it's what I've understood from
Yeah, and
Councilor Galvin.
yes, I was going to say, so, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, we would not have to appoint them as non-voting members, they would simply be a member of the public and could be as
Exactly.
engaged as any other member of the
Right.
public.
I
And we
think
certainly invite them to be engaged.
Right, they're open meetings and anybody can go to those meetings. They're posted, they're,
So I think it goes between the word appointed and
right,
just
they're
participating.
welcomed.
Welcome.
Great.
Good.
So with that, if I may, I'd love to make a motion to appoint, and I'm going to apologize in advance for the last names and maybe some of the first names that I will butcher. But I would make a motion to appoint the following high school individuals as voting members of the Youth Council: Ali Zain Al-Abedin Atui, Thomas Bernardo, Lauren Blois, Joshua Catino, Uma Gerwick, Jana Herzog, Paige McGibbon, Nicholas Polari, Ellie Tropiano, Nivea Waterman, and Sophie Vayer, and also the following middle school students as voting members of the Youth Council: Jenna Farber, Charlotte Holmes, Madeline Naper, Tegan Sparhawk, and Nicholas Walczewski.
Great. So just to clarify one thing, we actually have 6 openings for middle school. Is that correct, Jack? So we only had, yeah. No, it's okay. So we only had 5 applicants, so we will be re-advertising for that last position.
Great.
Okay. So, yeah, we can,
I move to,
I think Jonathan moved, we need a second.
I second.
So,
So you don't have to read all
moved
the
by
names again.
Counselor Chines,
was
seconded by
ready.
Counselor Budd. Any additional discussion? Ed?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Jack, for the work that you and the rest of the team put in interviewing all these folks. I guess my question is, what questions were asked of the applicants, and what criteria did you as a body use in making these recommendations?
Totally. So we asked a selection of general questions. We asked every member of the Youth Council if they wanted to submit any questions. We got a few. So basically we asked, why did you apply? What was your interest in being involved in local government? What is an initiative that you'd like to work on, whether it's a current initiative or a new one you'd like to introduce? What are your interests and hobbies outside of advocacy, and just time commitments, grade, etc. And so we kind of asked every of these questions, we gathered their info. We really want a diverse group of members. So we took people who wanted to be liaisons to the Environmental Sustainability Committee or the HRC or the library, the police department. We wanted to make sure we had a diverse group there and a diverse group of opinions too. So we did not want just one group of people who thought the same thing. We took people who had different ideas, different opinions on certain issues, and we wanted to bring them together to work together to kind of find some solutions. I think that's what we just set up in our mission statement, and we want to continue that work through next year.
So with that, so like when you say different opinions, you're like how would you get those sorts of opinions from folks? You know, like what kinds of questions or you know what areas did you focus on, you know, to determine like, you know, the opinions that you guys valued and looked for that diversification of?
Yeah, so I think that was probably part of our follow-up question. So when they talked about what they're really interested in and what they applied, we brought that in, we kind of asked them, so you want to work on this certain initiative. Say this person was really interested in bringing menstrual products into high school bathrooms, or really interested in safe routes to school, and we kind of talked like how they wanted to work on it and like what they thought was really important in those certain issues. And also a lot happened in our past term. A lot of people had really strong opinions about our logo initiative, and we wanted to bring a diverse amount where people said, I really am kind of upset about that it was taken away. And we really wanted to value that, because we as a community are very diverse, and we have a very, very diverse amount of opinions. So we have people who maybe thought, you know, I don't think that's bad, but I would have kept it, or something like that. And we kind of just took a vast variety of people who answered different parts of these questions and why they really applied. Yeah. And like, I think, yeah, a lot of people, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I know a lot of people were really inspired and really driven by the logo initiative, and that brought in a lot of our applicants too. So we really wanted to make sure that we brought in people who were on different sides of that, because that was very different, very intense issue.
So would that have been one of the questions that asked of all 20? where they stood on that issue?
No, we did not ask that, but if they brought it up, we wanted to be sure that we valued that. But we did not feel that it was important anymore. It was important, but the issue has been finished, and we really want to focus on moving forward and working on different things.
And I guess this question is more for my colleagues in terms of the non-voting members. I know that discussion came up when we were talking about expanding the number of voting members. But is there a reason why we wouldn't have the youth council submit the roster of non-voting members so that we at least have a record of the membership of the council? I know, I was trying to think of some other committees or councils that we do have that. And I guess the closest is ZBA, where we have the alternates. And I recognize that alternates actually do vote, on occasion. So it's a little bit different as an analogy, but I would be in favor of anyone that is not selected being identified as a non-voting member of the council. And then when it comes time for the youth council and us to look at appointments going forward, we kind of know, all right, well, who is on the bench, who has been a part of this, but in a non-voting capacity that it makes sense to elevate, to a voting capacity. So I would actually be in favor of having those names, like all those names identified, voting and non-voting alike.
Any discussion on that?
I mean, I don't have any objection to that. I mean, I think it would be, great to know who's kind of gotten involved in the youth council, and would certainly encourage, again, whoever Jack's successors are as part of the leadership team of the youth council to share that information with us as part of a periodic update. It'd be great to know who's kind of raising their hand to get involved.
Just because I'm sorry, Madam Chair, as a appointing authority, I just think that us having the oversight is important. So if it pleases my colleagues, I would move that we just amend the motion that's currently pending to include that any members that were not selected as recommended as voting members be identified as non-voting members to the council and added to the roster as such. If there's a second to that.
I just have a question. I'm just a little fuzzy on the role that the non-voting members have. So if they come to a meeting, are they able to participate in the meeting, or would they only be there for public participation? They'd be able to participate, they just couldn't vote?
Yeah, I think they could participate fully.
Okay. So if they can participate fully, so say that somebody decides in December that they want to start coming to meetings, they wouldn't be able to be participating. They wouldn't be, okay. So if that's the case, then.
That's what I think. They just come as a member of the public, then they would come and be able to participate during public participation.
During public participation. So it's different than
Yes.
they'd be non-voting members.
That's how I
just-
see it, but open to discussion. And Ed?
I wouldn't want to do anything to quash a young
No,
person being
no.
engaged. So my picturing of it is, if we have non-voting members, it's something they can put on a resume, they can be on deck for if someone steps off. But, and Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, because you ran meetings better than most of your adult colleagues. If a student came that was not a formal part of youth council, they could still participate in the meetings.
Yeah, so we had a few non-voting members this year, and they were still able to participate in the meetings, be on subcommittees, be liaisons on certain boards. They just didn't vote on certain initiatives or whatever. But we also had members of the public who came, especially during the logo issue, and they were able to participate in public comment. But they didn't participate in the rest of the meeting, only in public comment. But we can definitely change that if we want to have as many people participate as possible. But it's up to you guys.
I mean, that's something we can look at a future meeting. We don't have to figure that out today. But to go along with what Ed said, if we wanted to appoint as non-voting members the students that were not placed on the official, Jack, unless you have an objection to that, unless there is a reason we probably shouldn't go that way.
No, I can send that over to you guys for your next meeting, send to Sherry, and I think that'd be great, just to make sure we have a record of people who are definitely participating right now.
Perfect. I think for the next meeting, I just feel a little hesitant. Catherine Dingras has done such a great job as the staff who works with you, and she's not here today. And so just to weigh in with her, I do know you do run great meetings, Jack. Hopefully there's something you will continue doing in the future. But I also, as a liaison or town councilor, like I could speak during public time and not others. And I don't want the meeting, it's already a 17-member committee, so I don't want it to get too big. But I like that if we're likening them to alternates and not members of the public. But maybe you get us that list, and at our next meeting we vote on it and check in with Catherine. Maybe Jonathan, you can check in with Catherine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe just to kind of add on to that and to maybe put a proposal out there. I wonder if as part of that, we could defer to the Youth Council to sort of set the criteria as to how they would want to identify a non-voting member, as opposed to someone who comes during public participation. I mean, I think there's a definitional aspect of that that's really important, and I don't think that we as a town council need to necessarily impose that upon the Youth Council, and would maybe ask that that's something the Youth Council comes back with a proposal for, and that list of members, and we can kind of go from there.
Sounds good. Ed?
I think it's important, though, for us to keep in mind, we are the appointing authority, and so we treat Youth Council like we treat any other board, commission, or committee. And so while I respect their ability to be creative and formulate the manner in which they want to operate, ultimately, this is not something that we should defer to them in their entirety. I think Jack and his colleagues' feedback is incredibly important in shaping our own decision-making, but I don't think that it's sending the right message to the Youth Council to say, go ahead and you guys figure it out, whatever you guys think is best, we're going to adopt. I think, Jack, if you want to submit back to us what the Youth Council proposes, it does make sense, the capacity of a non-voting member, let's talk about it. But I don't think that we should be relinquishing, our oversight and our appointing authority relative to that. So I think it's important, especially when we're talking about wanting to define each of these commissions and boards, in more detail than we currently have. I don't think this is the time to have Youth Council just making the kind of the rules, if you will, without our oversight.
I don't think, Ed, I don't think it was suggested that they go rogue and make rules. I think it was suggested that they maybe talk about how they want to identify non-voting members, come back to the council, and then we have the final say on that.
Well, if you roll back the tape, it wasn't quite presented that way, but I agree with what you're saying there now, yes.
Okay. Can we agree that that's what we're saying?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
So good. So I think we're going to keep the motion as it is.
Yep.
Appoint the official members, and then Jack, if you could just communicate with the Youth Council and come back at our July meeting with the names of the non-voting members to be named and some process proposals. All right.
Thank you, Jack.
All in favor of moving the slate as read by Councilor Chines?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Vote of 6-0. Welcome to all the new and returning Youth Council. And good luck, Jack.
Thanks, Jack. Good luck.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay. Moving along to the MBTA Youth Pass program. This is a program, I think I read about it in one of the MMA newsletters, and I sent it over to Steve. Actually, I first reached out to MBTA, and they said that Wakefield didn't qualify, but that at the very next day they were having a board meeting whereby communities serviced by commuter rail would qualify for it. And so they were very excited that we were interested. And so there's a lot of information in the packet, but essentially it allows young people up to, I believe, 25, if they are receiving any services or subsidies from a list of pre-qualified programs, and they can also get up to 50% off of MBTA fares, which I really think is a great thing for Wakefield and for our youth. So it's a program that doesn't cost Wakefield anything other than some administrative, which I have full assurances from Steve we can handle.
Absolutely no problem.
So, any questions?
Looks great.
Yeah, just I guess two questions, and first maybe through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Mayo. Could you talk a little bit about how you would see us implementing this? yeah, I mean, is there like a point person at town
Yeah, I
hall
think the
that would
point
be?
person would be me for now.
Okay.
Okay. I asked.
You're looking for other things to do?
I'm looking back. I've had some time in my head. I asked my group, and they kind of all looked at me. So it'll be for me for now. First of all, we would work with the schools because I want to make sure no one is being falling through the cracks there.
Yeah.
Although it does not talk about students that are in the high school or middle school, there may be those that they know of that are going elsewhere too. Then we would advertise it, and it's really for people between the ages of 18 and 25 that qualify for some other subsidy that the MBTA lists. And we would somehow try to find out who they are. Maybe the food pantry is a good way, people using SNAP benefits, things like that. And see what we can do to provide them with the Charlie Pass, which I think is 50% off, which is what a wonderful way for people to get to work or get to continue education or something like that. And we would reach out and try to find out who we can help, how we can help, and we'll take it from there.
My only, sorry.
No, just one other question I had, and I don't know if anyone knows this, but in the packet that we got from them, they also had like a regional transit map for New Hampshire with like bus routes up to New Hampshire and Maine. I'm assuming that's out of scope for this program, but I wasn't sure if I was missing something given that they sent it to us.
I think they just threw everything in there.
Okay.
Their whole system. That's the way I read that one.
Sorry.
No, and my only question when I see the list here is maybe we can have somebody look into, maybe in the school system, whether the post program would
Yes,
qualify.
absolutely. Yep.
Because that seems to be kind of the kind of audience they're looking for as well, or population they're trying to reach. Any other discussion?
I think it's a wonderful way to give back to a sector of the community that maybe isn't getting as much as they could.
And I think
So,
the more we can show usership of the MBTA at all levels, it's only going to help us in the long
helps
run.
us, yeah.
So.
Sorry, and again, I apologize, I've got a lot of questions on this. So, do we know if they have any similar programs outside of the youth population? I mean, when I look at some of the eligibility criteria, particularly, eligibility for Mass Health and things like that, those strike me as individuals, even if they're over 25, where I think there'd be a lot of value in having a subsidy. Do we know if the MBTA does anything outside of the kind of the youth group?
Other than senior passes.
Yeah, senior passes would be all I could think of.
We'll look into that
can
though,
look,
because there is that area between the youth and the seniors.
Yeah.
that is
There are a lot of
often-
years between
A lot of
25
years, yeah.
and
I
when
think
you're
it's
eligible.
disabled too, I think.
Yeah. We can look into all those things, yeah.
Yeah, it might be something too to maybe push our state delegation
Yeah.
a little bit to see if there's an opportunity there, because I think that's a big unmet need as well.
Yeah. Good. So do I have a motion to accept our inclusion in the MBTA Youth Pass program?
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Counselor Dombrowski, seconded by Counselor Santos. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 6-0. Great. Thank you, Steve, for looking into that,
Thank you.
because I forwarded emails. Surplus property. Steve, I'm going to punt this one over to you.
So as the town knows, we did receive our new Seagrave pumper. We now have a 2021 pumper. It takes a couple of years. Think about when we voted on it. It takes a couple of years to get it built and get it over here. So we do have a 1996 Seagrave fire engine, which is basically put together with Scotch tape and chewing gum right now. And actually, Seagrave didn't even want it in trade. I'll tell you that. So the city of Malden would like it to use as a backup for the price of $3,000. I kind of said $3,000 didn't sound like a lot to me, but after checking it out and talking with the fire chief and with Tom Walsh, they both assured me that is a great price to get for this, and that it's falling apart, has a lot of problems. Malden will keep it and then probably scrap it later on. So it's a good way to help out one of our neighbors. It's a good way to get rid of a machine that we don't need anymore and won't use again. So I'll be looking for the town council to declare this as abandoned property and then to allow it to be sold to Malden for $3,000.
3,000 is 3,000.
Yeah.
So moved.
Seconded, as Steve mentioned.
Great. Discussion, Ed?
Oh, so I'm just wondering, is there any reason we wouldn't just sell this like we would like any other surplus
And go out to
property?
bid on it? I mean, that, my only other question was, I'm told we may not get, well, we might get around the same, or well, we could get more, we could get less, we don't know. But the other thing was helping someone who's part of our Metro Fire System, who, we work with each other on mutual aid, so that was the other piece of the pie on that.
Any additional, Jonathan?
No, I guess, the 3,000
Yeah,
number was a little
yeah,
eye-popping, as
yeah.
it sounds like it was for you
Yeah.
as well, Mr. Mayo. I would imagine even, or I would have thought even just like the metal that goes
Yeah,
into
I
the engine
I
would have
know.
been worth more than that, although I would guess it's also fairly hard to get rid of an unusable fire engine, and so I'm sure that's probably built in the cost. If we did, for whatever reason, go out to bid with it, I mean, do you have a sense from Chief Sullivan as to like the range that we would be talking about? I mean, if we thought we could
Yeah.
get, 40,000 for
No,
it, that
no,
would be
I
one
would,
thing,
yeah.
but if it was like, oh, maybe we'll get 4 or 5, it
My
doesn't seem like it's
understanding
worth
is,
it.
and you don't know till you go out to bid, right?
Yeah.
But my understanding is you're looking in that same ballpark as
Okay.
You know me, if I thought we were gonna get 50, I'd say,
Yeah.
forget this, let's go.
Ed?
So as it's discussion on this motion, I would be in favor of instead just treating it like we do other surplus property, and if 3,000 is what the market, dictates for it, then that's what we'll get. And if 5,000 is what the market dictates for it, then that's what we'll get. I don't think we should treat it differently than we treat any of the other stuff that comes through DPW, for example. So I'm in favor of just, selling it off like we normally would sell off property. Because it maximizes our return, and I think ultimately our responsibility is to get the highest value for anything that we're selling off, even if it's a couple thousand more.
Whatever the board wants.
Well, I do think there's also, I think there is also value in, helping out a community that is a partner for us on a number of things. And so I definitely, I wouldn't certainly want to give something away that has value, but, there is also sort of an intangible value to the work that we do with Malden, on the fire and rescue side. The fact that there are community resources in Malden because of the size of the community that we don't have. I'm thinking of the fact that, for example, Malden has a homeless shelter, which we don't.
That we utilize.
That we utilize. And so I would want to be careful that we're not being sort of penny wise and pound foolish, given that, again, there is, relationship value, and there is, kind of operational value in maintaining a good relationship with the communities around us, particularly that have resources that we leverage frequently.
Julie? I also, I just trust the people that are making this decision. I trust Tom Walsh and Mike Sullivan to not be giving something away to Chief Bright in Malden, who I also trust tremendously. He's a Wakefield resident. And I think what you said, Jonathan, is important and is part of this decision-making. I don't feel like we're letting down the citizens of Wakefield by not putting this out to bid to potentially get a small amount more when the folks who know this type of equipment so well seems to believe that this is a very fair price. So I think we should just take a vote on the initial motion.
I just want to share reading Chief Sullivan's letter, where he says that the new pumper has been delivered and will be placed into service within the next several weeks. I don't know how long it takes to put something out to bid, but I'm guessing that storing this for a couple of extra months won't be easy. I also just want to say that this was one of the first votes I took, this new fire that we discussed, and I remember it taking 4 years to get it, and I'm so happy that it's finally here. And as we talk about a ribbon cutting on Broadway, I feel like we should have a ribbon cutting at the fire truck. But just wanted to say that. I'm so glad we passed it at town meeting and really excited. But I wonder about storing an extra fire truck where we would do that for a couple of extra months too.
We'd keep it outside. We wouldn't keep it inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, along those lines, just, the cost of putting it out to bid and staff time and all of that, so that would be what I would think. Anybody else on this? So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so 5 in favor, 1 opposed. Okay, Wow, we're going quickly. Item number 11, announcements.
Oh my God. 6 minutes. Try to beat an hour.
No, do not feel like you have to rush.
Yes, please do.
Jonathan?
So a couple of things. First of all, it's really wonderful to be back in studio and to actually see everyone's or most of our faces again. I just wanted to again sort of thank WCAT for everything that they've done, not only for us but for all of the boards and commissions in town over the last year and a half. It really has been incredible to think about how we've been able to kind of keep town government going in the way that we have, and in fact, in some ways, in an improved capacity than it was before in terms of the level of public transparency that we have. And so to Ryan and Ian and everyone on the team here, it just, really can't thank you enough for the great work that you guys have done. We owe you a huge debt of gratitude as a town. Couple of other things on the list today. Vision 2030, we did have our third and final virtual public forum a week ago Monday, which means our third and final online survey is up right now, and that'll be open for another 2 weeks. It'll close out a week from today. One thing I wanted to make sure people understand is that each of the surveys has actually had a different set of questions. Mm-hmm. So we've focused on 4 different topics for each of the forums and the survey that matches that. And I have gotten a couple of questions from folks saying, well, I filled out the first survey, do I need to do this one? We certainly hope you do. It actually is covers a different set of topics. And I will say, as someone who kind of helped put this survey together, I was surprised when I took the survey myself how thought-provoking the questions are, which is really a testament really more to Jen McDonald and Erin Kokinda than me and by any way, shape, or form. But I really encourage people to fill it out. It will, I think, prompt you to think about things in Wakefield in a maybe slightly different way. And the feedback that we've been gathering through these surveys has been invaluable. So the survey is available online. If you go to the town website, on the bottom left-hand side, there's a button for Wakefield Vision 2030. Please fill that out in the next 2 weeks. And as we close that survey out and kind of compile all of the information, and there is a lot of information, we'll be coming back to the council at some point to share how it all kind of comes together and bring it here for discussion. Also did want to put a plug out there for anyone who is looking for summer activities for the kids. There still is actually availability in a lot of the programs run by the town, both the rec department as well as the school department through Wakefield Academy and elsewhere. And I have to say, as someone who signed my kids up for some of these things, there are some really cool programs that are out there. And so great job again by the rec department and by the public schools, and certainly if you're looking to get your kiddos out of the house, there's still time to do that. And then finally, just wanted to mention a congratulations to the Boys and Girls Club and to Wakefield Main Streets for a successful launch of the community boating program on Saturday. Beautiful day for it, and definitely a nice day to be out on the water these last few days with the temperatures, and really kudos to them for getting that up and running.
Great.
So, thank you.
Sure. Ann?
Ditto to what everything Jonathan said with regard to WCAT. It felt like a seamless move when we went fully online, and it feels so good to be back in the studio. I just wanted to highlight, as liaison to the police department, give our men and women props. Again, we had a lovely letter from a gentleman whose wife was going through some very difficult times, and potentially could have gone a different way, and the police responded and were able to calm her down and brought her down from a state of agitation, and the husband recognized that it really could have gone another way, and that their empathy and their kindness and their thoughtfulness, while still maintaining a safe, understanding that they're police officers and they're keeping folks safe, that they were able to do both. So just another story of how wonderful the men and women of Wakefield PD are, and I am sure Wakefield Fire was also at this call, as they often are, and I have no doubt that they were as excellent as well. So I just wanted to remind people of that again.
Ed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. 371 days is the countdown clock to the July 4th parade of 2022. So everyone, be getting ready. I think chairs will probably start to go out in the next few weeks. Mark your spot. And just want to remind everyone, this will be the 75th anniversary of that parade. They have worked so hard, and they've endured like 2 years of not being able to do it, but it's just made them much stronger of an organization. But ultimately, they need everyone's support in the community. It's free for everyone to attend, but it's not free to put on. And so I would encourage everyone to go to julyparade.org and contribute any amount. You won't be seeing those white buckets down Main Street this year, but please know that they appreciate each and every dollar that the community and beyond can provide to support them. So I would just encourage everyone to support them and the Westside Social Club and the tremendous work that they do on that day as well, from the kids programs all the way through the day. To the fireworks, and they can also use our community support. And that is one of our proud moments as a town. I know Mr. Mayo on July 4th always feels a bit easier when he goes to bed that night, knowing that we've gotten through another major event each year, a huge event for our town, but we do such a great job with it. And so I really encourage everyone to support it so we can make it as big and grand as we possibly can. Thank you. And happy July 4th to everybody.
Ann?
So I just want to say, yes, WCAT is really amazing, and it is good to be back here. I haven't been back here in over 4 years, so it's really nice to be back, or maybe more than that. I also just want to give a shout out again to the Boys and Girls Club with the opening of the community boating. It was a really wonderful event on Saturday, and I'm just so excited to see the partnership with the library and the Boys and Girls Club, thanks to National Grid Foundation, of if you sign up, if your child signs up for the reading program at the BB Library, summer reading, they get an hour of free kayaking, and they get another hour for every book that they read. So I think it's a good incentive for families to get their kids to the library and for kids to get reading. So I think that's really exciting. So it's a great opportunity.
Just to echo what everyone said, thank you, WCAT, for doing this seamlessly. I counted, I think we had 30 meetings via Zoom. So we are now officially back in the studio, which is just great, and thank you. And listening to everyone talk, just, this past 15 months, the nonprofit organizations in town have just been amazing. So Boys and Girls Club and WCAT, Movies by the Lake, they're showing my absolute favorite movie on July 8th. So I will be watching The Princess Bride, and hope you all will be there as well. It's classic. But thinking of all that the nonprofits have done, and looking forward to July 4th celebrations next year. And in that vein, just also want to, we will have to recognize somehow all the town employees and everything that they did, Steve and his team, Sherry and Tom, and everyone else this past 15 months. To get us through. And on that vein, we are going through a heat wave right now. And so if you're feeling the heat, know that the library is open, and please call if we can help in any way. Just want to thank again everyone that keeps our town running and kept our residents safe during the last 15 months. So thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Town employees did an amazing job, continue to do an amazing job every day. So I thank them. And not only is the library open, but the senior center is also a cooling center. So, but the most important thing to do is to check on your neighbors. We all have people that may be a little bit older, need a little bit more help, and make sure they have water and they're well cared for. So. That's the best first.
That's me on my street now, so.
Yeah. You're the older person now? We're checking on you?
No, absolutely.
Can we tell your neighbors that you're okay?
Yes, my neighbors know I'm okay, luckily. They see me over the fence.
Tom or Sherry, have anything to add?
No, nothing, thank you.
All set, thanks.
Okay. I don't think I have much to add. We are looking to do a housing forum. I know there's been a lot of talk about that, but we're going to wait until the fall, let everybody get through their summer vacations, but that is definitely on the agenda to talk about development and housing in Wakefield. And I just want to say, in addition to all the other great events that are going on, it's been really nice to see the farmers market back up and running. So that there's been a lot of energy around that. Thank you again to WCAT, to Ian and Ryan and Brian and Ben for having us tonight. And if there's no other, we have matters not anticipated. Anybody have any matters not anticipated?
None.
Okay, so seeing none, we can adjourn this meeting and reconvene on Monday, July 12th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Happy 4th of July.
So
Move to
moved.
adjourn.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
seconded?
Everybody in favor of adjourn?
Yes.
Happy 4th of July.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy 4th of July.